In this video, we'll finish up key area 1.7 of cellular respiration by talking about the third and final stage, the electron transport chain. So, in the previous two stages, glycolysis and the citric acid cycle, we'll have seen that the enzyme dehydrogenase, removing hydrogen and passing it to the coenzyme NAD to produce NADH. The reason that happens in the previous stages is because we require the hydrogen for the electron transport chain, which takes place in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So the electron transport chain is a series of proteins of which will pass the electrons of hydrogen amongst each other, and this releases energy in order to pump or pass the hydrogen ions again along the series of proteins, all embedded within the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So as the hydrogen ions get passed from protein to protein, the most important one is the final protein, the ATP synthase enzyme, which as the hydrogen ions pass through, the enzyme will give ADP its phosphate back to make ATP, the high energy molecule. And then the final reaction of respiration is the hydrogen will combine with the oxygen to form our final waste product, water. So the NADH will drop off the hydrogen. The electrons being passed along provides the energy to pass along the hydrogen ions. Hydrogens will be passed from protein to protein until finally we get to the last protein in the series, the most important, the ATP synthase enzyme. Hydrogen ions pass through the enzyme, allowing it to build more ATP molecules, and then hydrogen will combine with oxygen to make the waste product, water. So lots of ATP produced during this reaction, and in fact, this stage of respiration makes the most ATP out of all of the stages. So now that we have that vital energy molecule ATP, that can then be used to power all of the different cellular processes. So when we talk about something in the body requiring energy, what we really mean is it requires the ATP molecule produced during cellular respiration. So that includes lots of the things that we've already discussed, such as DNA replication, cell division, gene expression, or it could also be things like muscle contraction, transport of substances around the body, or even the electrical energy required for cell to cell communication. So, massively important molecule produced in 3 stages of respiration. So now that we've discussed all 3, let's try some past paper questions. So during respiration, most ATP is produced when A. Electrons are passed through the membrane protein ATP synthase. B. Hydrogen ions are passed through the membrane protein ATP synthase. C. Electrons are pumped through the outer membrane of the mitochondria. Or D. Hydrogen ions are moved along carriers in the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. Pause the video and select your answer. So the correct answer for this question, so during respiration, the most ATP is produced when the hydrogen ions pass through the membrane protein ATP synthase. So that's the key to producing the ATP molecule. It's the powering of that enzyme, the phosphate being added back to the ADP to make the ATP molecule. So it's not the electrons that are passed through the enzyme, it's the hydrogen ions. So that's why you could have ruled out A. C, electrons are pumped through the inner membrane, so that is rules out. And D, The hydrogen ions are moved along carriers in the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. While that might be true, it's not the point where the most ATP is produced. That's specifically when the hydrogen ions pass through the ATP synthase enzyme to convert ADP into more ATP. Let's try another one. So mature red blood cells have no nucleus and they have no mitochondria. So which of the following processes can still be carried out by a mature red blood cell? Can they still do A, glycolysis, B, cell division, C, protein synthesis, or D, the electron transport chain? Again, pause the video, select your answer and hit play when you're ready to reveal the correct response. So for this one, we're thinking about where certain processes that we've talked about take place. So what can a red blood cell do if it doesn't have a nucleus or a mitochondria? Well, it can't do cell division. It needs a nucleus for that. Can't do protein synthesis. Again, that would require a nucleus for the production of mRNA. It also can't do the electron transport chain. Remember, that happens within the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So that leaves A, glycolysis. Remember, that's taking place in the cytoplasm. So even without a mitochondria, that stage of cellular respiration can still proceed. So hopefully by now you have a much better understanding of all three stages of cellular respiration. If you do have any questions, please do let me know.